Okay, thank you to the very distinguished panel of witnesses for each of your statements. We'll now have one round of questions from the panel, and then we'll go into our classified remainder of our hearing upstairs. For both Dr. Horowitz and Mr. McCormick, in the hands of the Chinese, are hypersonic weapons able to do something that none other of their weapons can do?
I can take that to start. So China is very invested in long-range strike and precision strike capabilities. They have looked at missiles for a long time to achieve their strategic goals, and hypersonics is really a continuation of that commitment to a long-range missile force for counter-intervention and strategic nuclear deterrence.
Thanks so much. I think that that's right. The only thing I would add is that we have concern about the hypersonics being developed by the PRC and Russia, given their potential for dual capable systems, where there may be ambiguity about whether a system is armed with a nuclear or conventional weapon. Those are the kinds of situations where the deployment of hypersonic weapons is more likely to have destabilizing effects during a crisis or a conflict, and that is also not a concern with the hypersonic weapons that the United States is developing.
So is it your position that hypersonics have capabilities that no other weapons have?
So they combine the benefits of ballistic missiles, which are high speed, and cruise missiles, which are maneuverable. And so you can get those effects with two different types of weapons, but what they really challenge are sensing capability and our defensive capability. And they do provide military commanders very rapid response capability that you wouldn't have necessarily with other weapons.
And this is why we're pursuing hypersonics in the first place. The combination of speed, range, and maneuverability means they have the potential to generate effects that, in combination with the other capabilities the Joint Force is developing, give us the ability to deter aggression and, if necessary, prevailing conflict.
I think it's a straw man argument to say that we would pursue a type of weapon class only because the other side is doing it. I think that there is a use for hypersonics in and of themselves, no matter whether anyone else is doing it or not, and whether they're ahead of us or behind us. Would you both gentlemen agree with that statement?
I think that the Department of Defense is well aware of Russia and the PRC's activities in hypersonics, but the United States is not developing hypersonic weapons to respond to Russian or Chinese development of hypersonic systems. We are developing, hypersonics, as you suggest, because we think that their development and deployment is necessary to enhance the capabilities of the Joint Force and our ability to implement the National Defense Strategy. We think that the development of hypersonic systems will support integrated deterrence against priority threats because of that intersection of speed, maneuverability, and range that they have. It helps give senior decision makers the full range of options, especially in a contested battlefield environment where an adversary has deployed anti-access area denial systems.
Thank you. Mr. McCormick.
I certainly can't speak to the U.S. strategy. I would just say that China views these as an extension of its desire for precision long-range strike and to also enhance the credibility of its nuclear deterrence. These are in line with strategies that it's developed for its ICBMs, its IRBMs, MRBMs, and cruise missiles, and so they extend that strategy.
Okay, thank you. Now here's a question for General Rash, Vice Admiral Wolf, and Lieutenant General White. Can you talk about how your teams are working to overcome recent testing challenges and what problem is on your critical path?
Thank you for the question, Congressman. Since the three events this last year, non-flight test activities, the team has doubled down during the time we've had available to really take a deep dive look into some of the system design aspects while we're refitting missiles to get back out to the range. So this has been a time for us, both Army and Navy, to develop some lines of effort where we do a complete system analysis, ensuring that we uncover any additional trouble spots other than what we found to date, as well as standing up an independent review team to actually come in and look over our shoulder and to make sure we haven't missed something in the past. And we can go into more details on the test activities during our closed session. Vice Admiral Wolf?
Yes, sir, that's exactly right. And as we work with the Army, certainly what General Rash is doing on his side and what we're doing on our side together to understand, obviously both of these programs have been very fast-paced, and we've really leaned into Ranking Member Moulton's point of understanding the risks that we were taking to try and get this capability out there rapidly. We've hit some hiccups, and we're learning from that. So we will, to General Rash's point, we can talk about some additional testing we believe that we need to do to get some more confidence as we, in parallel, push this entire system forward. So again, a lot of these have been just understanding how we actually put this in the warfighter's hands. It's not necessarily a technology challenge. It's a ramping up industry to produce these things reliably so that we can give them to our warfighter.
Thank you, General White.
Yeah, I would say something similar, Congressman. The challenge, we've had some pretty good success with some of our tests over the recent past, and so I do think there is a part of this that is learning. Many of these programs, as you know, are somewhat born out of science and technology, and so we continue to learn as we go through the process. I think taking the time, as General Rash had pointed out, taking the time, good system engineering and design, and making sure we're taking into consideration as we have these programs, because many of them are middle-tier acquisitions, and we're moving quickly with these technologies. So continue to stay focused on that design and engineering piece. And then, of course, it's absolutely critically important that we continue to test.
Thank you. And Mr. Rumford, from your seat at TRMC, what is the biggest bottleneck right now when it comes to hypersonic testing, and how are you working to address that?
So the two biggest bottlenecks, and thank you for that question, it's the most important focus that we have is improving our flight test capacity and our ground test capacity. We need both of those. Testing is essential to understanding how well these weapons work. You can't think a weapon into existence, but you can test a weapon into existence. And so it's essential to kind of understand how those weapons perform. Every capability that we've ever put in air or into space, we've had ground test infrastructure that enables us to understand how well it works. So we have significant investments going on the ground test side to better understand the material science and the propulsion systems, and as well as improving our high-speed test tracks. And then on the flight test side, we have three major initiatives that are going to change our posture in our nation. One is the MACH-TB program that the Navy mentioned already, which is really going to be able to improve our throughput of hypersonic tests. Secondly is the Sky Range program, which is retrofitting UAVs so we can test hypersonics in more locations. And then thirdly, a corridor initiative to be able to have more long-range corridors. All of those couplings, I think, take on this challenge of how do we improve our ability to test for our nation.
Very good. And lastly, Dr. Weber, are you all at OSD using this delay as we work through the testing issues to make sure that the production capabilities will be there and that we'll be able to produce at scale when necessary?
Thank you for the question, sir. So certainly we are making significant investments in our industrial base. So we are using our authorities and programs in manufacturing technology, industrial base analysis and sustainment, and Defense Production Act Title III to improve our manufacturing technologies, but also to improve our manufacturing capability and capacity with industry, and to ensure that we have a resilient industry base.
Thank you. Ranking Member Moulton.